So now part 3, what are the causes of fatigue and PEM? Now, this is a really big topic, and I'm giving a very brief summary of some of the causes that I think are rising to the top and are the most likely to bear fruit with further research. I'm going to start with an emphasis on post-exertional malaise. What causes PEM? And I'm going to start by emphasizing that PEM is not, I repeat, not NOT in capital letters caused by deconditioning. Why is this so important to stress? Because for 40 years in the field of ME, we have been suffering from people who believe that PEM is due either to lack of effort or deconditioning. Although this has been thoroughly debunked by numerous studies and researchers over the past 10 to 15 years, nevertheless, many underinformed people and people with financial motivations, say insurance industry workers, continue to view exercise therapy as a potential curative treatment. It's still being recommended. I still get emails from people telling me they're being forced into exercise treatment. So many of you probably know this already. I'm including this in the video for those who are still on the fence. So I'm going to review some of the evidence that proves the deconditioning hypothesis is false. Okay. Why is it false? Because many people with PEM actually are not deconditioned. They maintain activity levels similar to healthy sedentary individuals. Now, this doesn't say too much good for the activity levels of healthy people, but those people don't have PEM. So what it shows is that people with PEM push to stay active and are not necessarily any more deconditioned than healthy sedentary people who do not experience PEM. So I hope you followed that line of reasoning. If deconditioning was a cause, then every healthy, out-of-shape person should have PEM, and this is clearly not the case. The muscle abnormalities found in people with PEM, such as the mitochondrial changes, which I've already described, or mitochondrial changes and actual muscle damage, is not found nearly to the same extent in people who are deconditioned as a result of bed rest or immobility. ME/CFS and long COVID are associated with many symptoms that are not found in people that are deconditioned. Things like unrefreshing sleep, brain fog, and autonomic symptoms, to name just a few. The 2-day cardiopulmonary exercise test results in ME/CFS and long COVID show that people, even if they're trying their hardest, are unable to do as much activity or exercise on the second day of the test, and this is not found in people that are deconditioned. Healthy deconditioned people are able to improve their function if they do graduated exercise. People with post-exertional malaise have the opposite result. They get worse if they push through their energy envelope. So the clear conclusion from the peer-reviewed literature is that deconditioning, when it exists in people with PEM, is much more likely to be the result of prolonged illness and skeletal muscle dysfunction rather than a cause of the symptom. So now that we've put away that hypothesis, what are some of the leading ideas about what causes PEM? And here there's a bit of fuzziness between fatigue and PEM. So some of these findings may be relevant for fatigue also. So number one is impaired energy production. I've put it at the top because to me it's the one with the most evidence and it's the most convincing. So it's very clear that cellular energy production is consistently decreased in both long COVID, ME, and CFS. To repeat some of the findings from the WOOS study, there are more glycolytic, fast twitch, type 2X muscle fibers, and these are muscle fibers which fatigue more quickly in people with PEM. And there's fewer slow twitch type 1 aerobic muscle fibers. These are fibers which use oxidative phosphorylation and are very resilient and allow you to do activities for a long time. The mitochondria in people with ME and long COVID are smaller, more fragmented, and less efficient. A second provocative finding is that there's both problems with blood flow and the extraction of oxygen by tissues. So it has been found now by several investigators that the tissues are taking up less oxygen. We don't know for sure why this is the case. It may be due to a combination of less blood getting to the tissues. For example, there are many studies of this, especially in people with orthostatic intolerance who have low blood volume. But it seems that even when the blood is getting to the tissues are extracting less oxygen from that blood. Now, many people believe that part of the problem may be these tiny microclots in the blood vessels that are blocking the blood flow. I would say the evidence for this remains inconclusive, as some pretty important studies have not been able to confirm it. A third interesting and very probable possibility is of that ME and long COVID people with PEM have evidence of inflammation and sometimes of autoimmunity. It's very clear, and research has been coming out for decades, that people with ME have dysregulated immune systems. They're often overactive but undereffective. So they get all the kind of problems and symptoms of an overactive immune system and none of the benefits. It seems very unfair. Now, it's also been shown increasingly over time that a subgroup of people with PEM appear to have autoantibodies, many autoantibodies, but most of them seem to be associated with autonomic function or the control of the autonomic nervous system. Autoantibodies are really of interest because there are other diseases where their role is more proven, things like myasthenia gravis and myositis. And these are conditions where exercise tolerance and muscle weakness are very prevalent. Now, when present, these autoantibodies, because they affect the autonomic nervous system, they impact blood flow, energy production, and even the function of the nerves and muscles. I have to add here, though, that I don't think antibodies are always present. There's never been a study in which they were found in every person. So although they may be a contributor, I'm not sure they can be considered a primary explanation of post-exertional malaise. The next and last potential cause I'm going to talk about is brain or central nervous system involvement. People with ME/CFS and long COVID virtually all report brain symptoms, things like difficulty thinking clearly and quickly, problem concentrating, problem remembering, chronic pain, unrefreshing sleep, and changes in mood. Both regular MRI and functional MRI studies repeatedly show changes in the brain. Virtually all of these studies are positive, meaning they found abnormalities. Some of these include things like decreased blood flow to the brain, decreased connectivity between important parts of the brain that should be connected, and even things like reduced gray matter volume. The gray matter is the part of the brain where the neurons live. So some people have worried this may mean that we have fewer neurons or that neurons are actually dying. I don't think this is the case, however, because of research that's been done that shows that we can recover that volume. Several studies show that the brain changes are not just innocent bystanders, but they actually correlate with symptoms. So people with more abnormalities in their brain also have more symptoms. This is very important because there's many research studies that report lots of things, but sometimes they don't correlate with symptoms at all, and you're not really sure how important they are. Now, when this immune overactivation that I just talked about occurs in the brain, it's called neuroinflammation. There's now several studies providing pretty convincing evidence of neuroinflammation. It includes things like microglia activation. The microglia are the brain's immune cells. And there's also evidence of increased levels of immune chemicals, cytokines and chemokines in the cerebral spinal fluid, the fluid bathing the brain. So it's very likely that this inflammation is contributing to fatigue and post-exertional malaise. So this is a very incomplete summary of some of the findings that I find the most compelling.